I can tolerate this episode because at least Vex dislikes the Yordles as much as I do.
It's been so long since we've done a Yordle episode that I forgot you're a bigot. Welcome to Casuals of Runeterra, episode 151. I'm your host, Ryan, here with the other host, Hedge.
What is up, everybody? And we've got a fun one for you, despite the fact that I'm going to complain a little bit about it.
He won't complain about housekeeping, though, because he's used to it.
That's true.
You can listen to us everywhere. Visit us at podcastcore.com for all of our info. Email us at podcastcore@gmail.com. Follow us on all the platforms because that helps us with discoverability. We appreciate it. Leave a like and a comment wherever you listen. But the easiest way is word of mouth. Tell a friend to understand why it's not just a phase by listening to the Casuals of Runeterra podcast.
I'm swooping my hair right now as we speak.
Yeah, it's no surprise to people that, especially when she was revealed, that Vex is pretty much them leaning into what if a Yordle was emo. And the approach to it is fun, right? It's a fun approach, and it has some connective tissue that I didn't expect, right? There's a relationship here we'll talk about. We got a cameo coming up. But the first part about her bio is that it's actually written by one of the original writers from Avatar: The Last Airbender.
How cool is that?
That is so wild. I always love crossovers like that because I know recently in Magic we have a pivotal character that's been introduced in the current set that was drawn. The art was done by a prominent League of Legends artist. So that kind of stuff is always cool to see people getting some crossover in just general nerd culture.
Yeah, and that's obviously something we love because we are constantly pointing out like authors that have done like a lot of Warhammer stuff.
Yep.
Because I'm a degenerate, so it's always great to see that. But it also makes sense that this is written by someone that had a hand in the last Airbender, because this is definitely an episode of teen angst, and like I can't think of another show, at least from like our generation, that like really captured being a teen as well as Avatar: Last Airbender. So it makes sense. But
Takes into it.
This one though is going to be go ahead and get your eyeliner out, do your hair, and put in like your fake like the Coke tab, like the tab off your soda can, and turn it into a fake lip ring and everything. Because it's not a phase, Mom. All right, we're going emo today. All right, Fallout Boy's playing in the background and everything. All right, so for our story, it is going to start off. On like in Bandle City.
Yeah,
and right out of the gate, we have Vex living up to her name as far as living in Bandle City, because she's immediately complaining about how much it sucks to live with all the quote unquote normies. So I can tolerate this episode because at least Vex dislikes the Yordles as much as I do.
It's been so long since we've done a Yordle episode that I forgot you're a bigot.
It's just a generational thing, man. And my father was like,
he's from a different time.
I'm going down. But yeah, so Vex is the polar opposite of all other Yordles. She does not exude joy and happiness. She's not a bubbly, outgoing individual. She likes to just stick to herself, and she likes the dark and gloom in the world. So Bandle City is the polar opposite of all of that. So Vex likes to just stay in her room. And as far as with her staying locked up in her room, she does make a friend and it's a very unlikely friend because she becomes friends with her shadow. It's said that like she already liked her shadow because it's the same color as her favorite color, which is black. And but she is able to start trying to like gain control over her shadow. She's able to manipulate it and do some pantomime things with it. But nothing as far as what we know Vex as the League of Legends champion.
Yeah.
And as far as with this friendship she develops, it is a nice little thing, but she wants something more. She wants to find someone or something that reflects the way that she feels on the inside, which doesn't seem like it's going to happen as far as in Bandle City. And lucky for her, all of that's going to change when the Fire Nation attacks. And Fire Nation being the Shadow Isles.
Yeah, it's interesting because this is a nice little twist on a Yordle story, considering she has so much of her own personality already. And we know that through the other Yordles we've talked about, they have a little bit of personality, and then they go to a place and they assimilate, right? Where she's not seeking to assimilate, which is counter to what we've been given for Yordle so far, but it fits because when you are this type of personality, it's the antithesis to it, right? You're trying to be your own person, you are alone. It's like sad boy mode. And so her mission isn't to seek out somewhere to find something new to become a part of. She's trying to find something that is her already and just fits her better. She doesn't want to assimilate. She just wants more of what she knows and what she likes. And that's a cool little twist.
Yeah, and like to your first point, it is very much against like all the other Yordles we've covered, like Poppy being the one that pops to my head the most, because Poppy is Demacian through and through now.
Yeah.
But yeah, so as far as with Vex's story, it picks up because there is a harrowing that goes through Bandle City, which we've touched a little bit on the harrowings. It's not the same thing as a ruination. The ruinations are just, a complete mass destruction. It's a nuclear bomb of spiritual energy, right? Whereas a harrowing is the souls that tend to be the ones that are caught up in ruinations that are now moving out across Runeterra trying to take down life.
Yep.
And there are some really cool stories that cover the harrowings in more details. So we're not going to touch the harrowing too much here because hopefully we'll get to cover that in future episodes. So tune in for that. But the harrowing does go through Bandle City, and it obviously, Shadow Isles being a place of death and gloom, this is not a good thing for the Bandle City. So you have Yordles either running for their lives or Yordles that would be with, followers of like Tristana and Teemo that are gearing up to fight the harrowing and to push it out of Bandle City. For Vex is like, that looks really nice. That looks really neat. And she does find this so intriguing that instead of running or fighting, she decides to follow the black mists to the source. So she follows the trail and it leads her into the Shadow Isles. And for her, this is the best thing that's happened to her ever, because it is the perfect place for her to do her sulking. Everything matches the way that she feels on the inside because it's a place completely devoid of life and joy. And she also finds that the black mists, especially spending so much time within the mists at the source, is starting to have an effect on her. And the effect that it's having is it's starting to bring out a lot of her latent magical abilities, which all Yordles have. But now she's able to have significantly more control over her shadow. And this is the point where we start seeing Vex become more like we know her champion to be in game. Like now the shadow basically has a mind of its own.
Yeah.
It is truly a friend to her now, but it's still, not an actual other being. It's just a part of her. And the interesting things the only other thing we get with the shadow is that it is kind of more Yordly than she is.
Yeah.
Like the shadow is much more outgoing and much more, I guess ADHD would be the way to put it.
Yeah.
So it's not like the friend that she wants, but it is a friend. And For her, she is, loves everything about it. And I quote, she wants to find out who created this wonderfully awful place. And lucky for her, she does get to meet them. And
Yeah.
she does make an unlikely friend. And the friend that she makes is the king of the Shadow Isles himself, Viego.
What? I know that guy. I've
Like,
heard of him.
so this is very interesting because as far as for her friendship with Viego now, it becomes a thing where she realizes that Viego is the one spreading out the black mist, and she loves everything about it. So she's like, I want to help you spread the black mists. Viego realizes that the black mist is having some strange effect on her, and she is kind of exhibiting control over it, which no one else has any control over the black mist other than Viego himself. So he realizes that the fact that she has a mortal body and has control over it means that she can spread the black mist into areas that he can't yet.
Yep.
So they end up becoming the best of friends because of this, because, Vex is like, yeah, let's go spread some black mists. And Viego's like, really? you do?
You didn't even have to sell her on it. It's just like, I'm down.
Yeah, she
found him, which is also unlikely, right? Because he is also isolated in a way.
Absolutely, like he's beyond isolated, especially if you've listened to a lot of our other episodes where we cover Viego and the Sentinels of Light. Like we go into more details as far as his isolation, which is not in the same vein as Vex, because Vex was just wanting to be alone, whereas Viego kind of made himself alone through this sheer power hungriness.
Yeah, that's what leads to conflict.
Yes, it does lead to conflict, because as far as their partnership is going very well until Vex realizes why Viego wants to spread the mist, and that is to recover his lost lover, Isolde. As far as Isolde and Viego, go listen to our Viego episode, our Sentinels of Light episodes. We cover that in detail there. But
or if you're brave, listen to all of our book club episodes.
Hey, you say if you're brave. The book club episodes are awesome. I've been listening to them and they're fantastic. So go listen to them anyways. But we cover Isolde and Viego in detail is what we're saying here.
Yeah.
And so for the purpose of this story, all you need to know is that Vex is like, you are trying to spread the black mist to recover true love and happiness. Ew, brother, ew.
brother, what's that?
What's that? So Vex is not down with this, and this is my favorite part of this story, which is that once Vex realizes that this is what Viego's goal is, she doesn't just like dip. She ends up betraying him, and leaving him out to dry to the Sentinels of Light. So, which again, we've covered a lot of that stuff. So it's nice to have like this added nuance into that story that Viego had someone in the shadows that was there to help him.
Someone powerful.
And very powerful. Because I mean, Yordle mages are no joke. So the fact that she just did the whole, like Scar and Mufasa thing of long live the king, turned her back on Viego is such a cool twist. But that does mean that, Viego, like, go listen to the Sentinels of Light episode to learn more about his fate. And for Vex, she's alone again.
Yeah.
And as far as with this, it's her mindset is more that it's a annoying setback, because now she's realizing that her goal to spread the black mist all over the world to get rid of all happiness is going to be much harder than she thought it would be.
Yeah.
Because now she doesn't have a powerful ally. But it does give her an idea, which is, with everything she's learned up to this point, she does know the perfect place to strike to where the black mist can do the most damage. And that's back in Bandle City. So this leads to her return to Bandle City, and I'm just going to read directly from her bio as far as what her return to Bandle City was. The young Yordle watched as her parents turned dumbstruck, still as tree stumps. Their expressions changed from shock to denial to reluctant acceptance. Honey, we don't understand this, said her mother, motioning with her finger at Vex's entire being. But we love you unconditionally, said her father, and if you're happy, we're happy for you. Rolling her eyes, Vex released a loud, exasperated sigh. You guys are the worst, she moaned. And that's where her bio ends. It's like her going back to the Shadow Isles because it's like, my parents still accept me, and that's disgusting. So I might as well just never come back here again. And that's where we leave off.
Yeah, it's a nice little bio that has a good bit of meat on its bones. And I mean, moving past the story, what kind of fun stuff can you do with this? And I think, certain situations of conflict that occur outside the Shadow Isles could gain her interest down the road. Because one thing we do know is from her, like, we're not given a time frame, but if you listen to our episodes about Viego and that whole trudgery of a mission, that took a while. So the point at which she meets him to the point where he's defeated is a good amount of time where they're hanging out. There's a lot of time there for them to learn about each other, learn about each other's past, etc. So even though from her perspective, it feels more lighthearted because she's just a Yordle who's, in sad girl mode. I think there's more there, right? There's a place for her to become a problem as the world around her changes, especially because we know the environment that she dwelled in for a while and the environment that she likes. So her view on despair in Runeterra is much different from like a neutral standpoint. There is a motivation there. It's not malicious. It's not like a spirit, right? We're not talking about a nocturne approach to it or an Evelyn approach to something with a motivation to eat. But her motivation still would result in negative outcomes for others. And that could be an interesting take, right? It gives you some moral vague areas to play with.
Yeah. And that is something that is like really cool that we can have that added depth to what is overall kind of a goofy story, right? Like, I mean, this whole story could be summed up with "It's not a phase, Mom."
Yeah.
And we would all laugh and kind of move on, but it is a nice nuanced approach to kind of implementing that emo pop culture into League of Legends.
Yeah.
So, nice nod of the hat to that corner of the internet. Now, something that we've talked about a lot recently on the show, which, like Vex could kind of add a lot of problems into it, is especially since she is so content and borderline happy with what the Shadow Isles look like. It would make sense that she'd probably sign up to be, the right-hand man to someone else that is trying to get rid of existence as we know it, right? And we've talked a lot recently as far as Mordekaiser and his potential return. And we now know
shit, Hetch. That's actually, yeah, go on.
Yeah. We now know too that Mordekaiser works in necromancy. So you need a lot of death for necromancy to work, like by definition. So Vex could be a real problem if she found a pathway to figure out like what Mordekaiser's up to. Now, the only question there is, unlike Viego, Mordekaiser's so much more sure of himself and so much more, I guess arrogant would be the word for it.
Yeah.
I'm not entirely sure, but because the point I'm trying to make is that I don't know if Mordekaiser would be friends with Vex.
Yeah.
And so that would be like the saving grace for like all of Runeterra, right? But I do feel like that if Vex figures out like what that plan is, she would probably be on board with it because like, oh, if Mordekaiser has his way, everyone here is going to die and this place is going to be devoid of life. Exactly like my favorite place in Runeterra, the Shadow Isles.
Yeah, that's a great point, and that leads me to think, with Mordekaiser, we know he has lost his humanity. Which, if you haven't listened to our episode, check out that one to understand more how that happens. So he has no concept of like a friendship or an alliance, in that sense. Everyone is a tool for him now. With Vex, though, the one thread we do have here that would be the most comparable to humanity is her connection to her shadow. And that gives you a sense of, okay, she still seeks companionship in a way. And then that's reinforced by her deciding to return home of all places, right? Because she could just let Viego get beat up and still hang out in the Shadow Isles. Like, there's plenty of Dark Doom places out there, but she does choose to go back home. So there are little glints there of that hope in her character. The one or the flip side of that coin, though, is because we do have the precedence of Yordles being influenced by their surrounding, despite her seeking out a place that fit what she wanted rather than fit what she wanted to become, we still don't know if Yordles are susceptible to being influenced more because of their magical existence. So her being around Mordekaiser and her being around Viego, that could be, oh, it's a bad influence on an already bad situation. So that's also something that can be explored.
Yeah, and we do know, as far as like that, there is like, we do know that like there are Yordles out there that like can be evil, right?
Yep.
Because cough cough Vygar.
Yeah.
And I mean, Vygar just went in the most Yordle direction that he could go with his evilness, right? Whereas like Vex is significantly more nuanced.
Yeah.
And so the fact that like Vygar went in the direction that he went is why like we're not having this same conversation about him.
Yeah.
Whereas with Vex, it's like she could be a problem. And again, not only because of like, it's not a discussion of power level, it's a discussion with how they interact with that power level.
Mm-hmm.
Because Vygar is just going full supervillain, cartoon mode, whereas Vex is capable of manipulating the black mists, which no other living being has ever accomplished that.
Yeah.
So like there's a lot of implications that could be had there, and that's what makes like her story a lot more interesting, and if you look at it from that perspective. But who knows, we'll see if like we get some more stories and comics with her, or maybe we're just kind of overreaching and that Vex is just now going to be playing MCR Black Parade on loop in the Shadow Isles for the rest of her days.
We can only hope. But with that, this is a shorter one, like we told you guys. It's just going to be, pretty straightforward of a story, but there is something here to make us like her enough. And also in game, when she came out, she was very popular. A lot of people resonated with it. A lot of people, we've gone through that phase, right, as younger folk back in the day. So it really connects and it's fun, right? Everybody is in on the joke, but with this writing, we know the joke doesn't just have to be that. It can be more, and it can fit into, the constantly increasingly good paint that we talk about. So,
yep. And that's one of the reasons we love doing this show, because it's like there is a lot of really good paint out there, and it's so great to see the art that's created out of it. And it's an absolute pleasure to just go ahead and be like, yeah, let's look at it and share it with you guys.
Yeah. With that, thanks for listening. We'll be back soon with the next episode.
Yeah, take care, everybody.